Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhana Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Astotar Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Astotar Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be reading from 5th canto, 18th chapter, text 22. Dravida Prabhu, if you could please chant.
Mat praptaye ajesha
Ajesha
surasuradayas
Surasuradayas
tapyanta
Tapyanta
ugram
Ugram
tapa
Tapa
aindriye
Aindre
deha
Deha
rite
Rite
bhavatpada
Pavatpada
parayanan
Parayanan
namam
Namam
vindanti
Vindanti
aham
Aham
tvad
Tvad
dvidaya
Tridaya
yatojita
Yitojita
mat praptaye jes surasuradayas
Surasuradayas
tapyanta ugram tapa aindriye deha
Tapyanta Ugram Tapa Indriyadya
Vite bhavatpada parayanan namam
Etiman Parapayanam
Vindantyaham tvad dvidaya yatojita
Vindantyam Tvadirajito Jita
Matpraptaye Jesha Surasaradayas Tapyanta Ugrang Tapa Aindriye Diyaha
Tapyanta Ugram Tapa Indriya Diya
Vite Bhavat Paraparayana Namam
Hride Bhavat Paraparayana Namam
Vindantyaham Tvadvidayato Jita
Vindantyam Tvadirajito Jita
Matpraptaye Jesha Surasaradayas Tapyanta Ugrang Tapa Aindriye Diyaha Vite Bhavat Paraparayana Namam Vindantyaham Tvadvidayato Jita
Suradayas Hride Bhavat Paraparayana Namam Yam Tvadirajito Jita Tapyanta Ugram Tapa Indriya Diya Okay, thank you. Synonyms. Matpraptaye, to obtain my mercy. Aja, Lord Brahma. Isha, Lord Shiva. Sura, the other demigods, headed by King Indra, Chandra, and Varuna. Asura Adayaha, as well as the demons. Tapyante, undergo. Ugram, severe. Tapaha, austerity. Indriya Diyaha, whose minds are absorbed in thoughts of superior sense gratification. Rite, unless. Bhavat Pada Parayanat, one who is wholly and solely engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord's lotus feet. Na, not. Mam, me. Vidanti, obtain. Aham, I. Twat, in you. Hirdayaha, whose hearts. Yataha, therefore. Ajita, of O unconquerable one. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. O Supreme Unconquerable Lord, when they become absorbed in thoughts of material enjoyment, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, as well as other demigods and demons, undergo severe penances and austerities to receive my benedictions. But I do not favor anyone, however great he may be, unless he is always engaged in the service of your lotus feet, because I always keep you within my heart. I cannot favor anyone but a devotee. Purport. In this verse, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmīdevī, clearly states that she does not bestow her favor on any materialistic person, although sometimes a materialist becomes very opulent in the eyes of another materialist. Such opulence is bestowed upon him by the goddess Durgādevī, a material expansion of the goddess of fortune, not by Lakshmīdevī herself. Those who desire material wealth worship Durgādevī with the following mantra: dhanaṁ dehi rūpaṁ dehi rupavati bharyam dehi. O worshipable Mother Durgādevī, please give me wealth, strength, fame, a good wife, and so on. By pleasing Goddess Durgā, one can obtain such benefits, but since they are temporary, they result only in māyā-sukha, illusory happiness. As stated by Prahlāda Mahārāja, māyā-sukha, sukhāya, bharam, udvahato, vimūḍhān. Those who work very hard for material benefits are vimūḍhas, foolish rascals, because such happiness will not endure. On the other hand, devotees like Prahlāda and Dhruva Mahārāja achieved extraordinary material opulences, but such opulences were not māyā-sukha. When a devotee acquires unparalleled opulences, they are the direct gifts of the goddess of fortune, who resides in the heart of Narayan. The material opulences a person obtains by offering prayers to the demigod, to the goddess Durgā, are temporary, as described in Bhagavad Gita 7:23. Antavatu palam tesham tad bhavat yalpa midasam. Men of meager intelligence desire temporary. Sorry, my it moved to another. Okay, oh, you got it. Meager intelligence desire temporary happiness. We have actually seen that one of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to enjoy the property of his spiritual master, and the spiritual master, being merciful toward him, gave him the temporary property, but not the power to preach the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. That special mercy of the power to preach is given to a devotee who does not want anything material from his spiritual master, but only wants to serve him. The story of the demon Ravana illustrates this point. Although Ravana tried to abduct the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi, from the custody of Lord Ramachandra, he could not possibly do so. The Sita Devi he forcibly took with him was not the original Sita Devi, but an expansion of Maya, or Durgādevī. As a result, instead of winning the favor of the real goddess of fortune, Ravana and his whole family were vanquished by the power of Durgādevī. Shishtri stiti palaya sadhana shaktir eka. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Janashalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Translation again. O Supreme Unconquerable Lord, when they become absorbed in thoughts of material enjoyment, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, as well as other demigods and demons, undergo severe penances and austerities to receive my benedictions. But I do not favor anyone, however great he may be, unless he is always engaged in the service of your lotus feet, because I always keep you within my heart. I cannot favor anyone but a devotee. So this idea of enjoying without God is an old concept. And the example that they use is Ravana and Sita. And practically in the material world, everyone is trying to enjoy this māyā-sukha, or illusory happiness. And Srila Prabhupada, he says that Lakshmīdevī, Sita Devi, is taken from one Ravana to another Ravana. And Srila Prabhupada also says that our mission is to keep Lord Ramachandra and Sita Devi together. So Lakshmi should be engaged in the service of Narayan. And when I was distributing books in Harbor, which is it's a place of austerity for book distribution, but you have a lot of nice realizations. You see so many things. And people are trying to enjoy their senses, going on jet skis, eating in overpriced restaurants. It's by the harbor, by downtown, by the Star of India. And they're trying to enjoy Lakshmi without Lord Narayan. And when we go on book distribution, we humbly ask for a donation. And some of them, they're hesitant, they're resistant, they're appalled. So many different synonyms for they don't want to. But we still try. Because whatever they give, it's the start of their Krishna consciousness. So even if they, of course we don't want to give them too many books, but we try to give them a nice book for them to read. And they have these bike carriers that people can ride on. And I asked one of the workers, how much is it for an hour? He said $60 for 1 hour. To be driven around, they take their time and they go around the harbor, sightseeing. They can see the different places. And this way they're illusioned. They think they're enjoying life. So it's very unfortunate, actually. And the reason why they do this is because they want to show off to their friends. They want to make people envious. They take selfies, they take pictures of their food, and then they post it. But the reality is that it's so expensive, they may not even have enough for a donation. I've had so many people tell me that I spent all my money on this restaurant. So I just smile. So I just smile, and I tell them, please give whatever you can. And there's another example that people are envious. Sometimes you see children having these huge ice cream cones. And then I saw this yesterday. There was another child that saw that ice cream and he was crying. He said, Mom, I want an ice cream. So the parents, they said no. And the child started crying severely, very, you can say loudly. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. And from anger, complete delusion arises. And from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So lust has different degrees. So that child, he doesn't know what sexual lust is, but that lust is a very strong desire. And just because he couldn't get this ice cream, he started crying. But Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchid. Everything is God's property. Everything. So the devotees, they understand this. But the materialistic people, they think this is mine. Aham mameti. This body is mine, and anything in relation to this body is mine. My wife, my house, my children, my cars, everything belongs to me. So in this way they're deluded, and Srila Prabhupada, he always says they're thieves. They're taking something that's not theirs. And you run to so many different people when you're on book distribution, and most of the common people are, we don't criticize, but Christians. So, when I try to hand them a book, they say, no, Jesus is the only way. So I smile and I say, that's very good. So then I ask them a difficult question. I ask them, what's your favorite verse in the Bible? And then this lady, it took like a whole minute for her to think of a verse. So I said, how often do you read the Bible? And she said, every day. So I said, very good. So Srila Prabhupada, he emphasized we should read his books so we can study Shastra, so we can actually know what we're talking about. Not only that, but when people ask us, we can recite our favorite verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, etc. And I stopped this young man yesterday and I asked him, "Excuse me, do you know what crazy means?" And he said, "Yeah." So he gave me his definition and I told him, crazy, it actually means to believe something you're not. He said, "That makes sense." So then I asked him, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm this body, I'm American." So I told him, "You're also crazy, sir." So he said, "What do you mean?" I told him, "You're not the body, you're the soul within the body." So he liked that. And then he said something interesting. He said, "The whole world is crazy, except you." Like, he pointed at me. And I told him, "Now you don't have to be crazy also." So he took a set of books and gave a donation. And so people are thinking that whatever Krishna has allowed them to borrow or use, it's theirs. Illusion, samoha. But if you ask a child devotee, he knows exactly all the right answers. Who are you? I'm a spirit soul. Who's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What is the goal of life? To go back home, back to Godhead. So a little devotee can become a guru, actually. And a nice example is Dhruva Mahārāja, just like in the purport, Dhruva Mahārāja and Prahlāda Mahārāja. They were very young children, but they understood the science of Krishna consciousness. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has many potencies. And one of these potencies is the Hladini Shakti, the pleasure potency. And so Srila Prabhupada, he explains that this pleasure potency is Sita Devi, Srimati Radharani, or Lakshmīdevī. And according to moral principles, one should not bring his wife when he goes out of his house, because there's danger. But Ramachandra, Lord Ramchandra, he took Sita out and to show us example. So he shouldn't have taken Sita, but he wanted to show the example that if you take your wife out, there's many dangers out there. And what happened to Sita in the Ramayana? She was abducted. And so many different incidences. Just like Lakshmi, he was under a spell. He was bitten by a snake arrow. And so they had to get Garuda to bring the medicine with Hanuman. And just like Hanuman, he also set fire ablaze to Sri Lanka. He burned down Ravana's entire golden kingdom. And so he set this example. And, Dasharath Maharaj, Lord Ram's father, he didn't ask Sita to go. He also didn't ask Lakshmi to go to the forest. But they did, because out of affection for Lord Ramchandra. And, a lot of people, they criticize Srila Prabhupada. They would say, you treat your women like slaves. But Srila Prabhupada, he said, we don't treat our women like slaves, we emphasize protection. When they're children, they should be protected or be in the custody of their father. And then when they're married, they should be protected by the husband. And when they're in old age, they're protected by the grown-up children or the sons. So Srila Prabhupada, he was saying, we're not treating them like slaves, but we're trying to protect them. And Lord Ramchandra, he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Ravana took Sita away from him, from his protection. So Lord Ram, he could have married millions of other Sitas. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He could have created millions of Sitas, but he chose to rescue Sita. Why? To give us an example of what duty is for a husband. The duty of the husband is to protect his wife. And so, for one woman, Lord Ram, he destroyed Ravana's whole dynasty. But of course, Sita Devi, she's not an ordinary person, a woman. She's an expansion of Srimati Radharani. And Sita, she was actually the king's daughter. She didn't have to go to the forest. She didn't have to endure all the hardships that Lord Ram was going to endure in the forest, like thorns, wild animals. But she went. Why? She also wanted to set an example. She wanted to teach that a wife should be faithful. But nowadays, how many wives do you see that are faithful to their husband, or even their so-called boyfriend? And similarly, there's other women also that displayed this. Draupadi, she went with the Pandavas to the forest when the Pandavas were exiled. And another Mataji, or another woman, is Kunti Devi, the mother of the Pandavas. She decided to go with her sons when they were exiled. So they're teaching us very nice lessons. And Chanakya Pandit, he says, if there's no mother in the home and the wife is not peaceful, you should immediately leave home and go to the forest. Because, he says, yatha ranyam tata griham. For him, the forest or the home is the same. And nowadays, there's so many disturbances in the household. You know, the children, they're fighting with the parents, and the wife and the mother are fighting also. And also, but Srila Prabhupada says that a family in Vedic times consisted of the father, the mother, the wife, and the children. But nowadays, house means just the wife and the children. It's just me, myself, and my family. I met this young man, and I was telling him about the four spiritual orders or classes of our Varnashram system. And so I was talking about sannyas, and he said, I want to leave my wife and kids. Is that okay? So I told him, I advised him we should be responsible. You know, you don't just leave your wife and children, you have an obligation. So he understood, and I told him taking sannyasis when you're in your old age, when you're ready to give up family life, retired life. And so when I was speaking to him, he was telling me there's so many problems in his household, you know. He doesn't trust his wife, his money is always disappearing, his children are never home. So the home is actually hellish for him. So I didn't want him to be irresponsible, and I didn't want him to quote me saying, oh, Hare Krishna monk told me to leave home. So I told him, please be responsible and just tolerate, and you can set an example. And Srila Prabhupada says that a quality that makes a woman attractive is her shyness. But in today's times, the women, they're very degraded. They want to have the least amount of clothes on. And they want to speak like men. They want to dress like men. And sometimes they even get surgery and they actually become men. And another interesting incident is when the monkeys, they brought Sita's bracelet to Lord Ramchandra. And Lord Ram asked Lakshmi, does this look like Sita's bracelet? And Lakshmi, he said, I wouldn't know. I only see Sita's feet. So this is an example, you know, we should honor women, and we don't look at them, you know, above the, you can say, or we try not to. So Lakshmi, he presented a nice idea of being, you can say, chaste to the brother. And this idea of shyness, you know, you don't find that anywhere now. People, they're advertising the ladies to dress very provocatively. So then, you know, they get exploited, things like that. And another, we're here in Pacific Beach, you know, 2 blocks away from the beach. So if you go outside, you can see that the women, they're not dressed properly, even when they're advised to. In the Kali Yuga, everyone's pretty much degraded. Srila Prabhupada says we're all Shudras, or even lower than Shudras. I was speaking to a lady, and when I told her that marriage is between a man and a woman, she was very angry at me. She said, "Why can't it be woman to women?" So then I told her, I was trying to be respectful, but I told her that the purpose is procreation. And so I told her, first of all, you're not the body, you're not a woman, things like that. So she liked that, and then she didn't take a book, but she left with something nice. In the Western civilization, you can practically see there is no happy home. Why? Because the women, they're allowed to mix freely. There is no protection, and they are not married. There's no husband. And the father also does not care. So it's the opposite of the Vedic culture. I was distributing books in Balboa Park, and there was a father and a mother, and they had a small child in a stroller, and they had a photographer with them. And they were taking pictures in front of the building, the Science Museum, and they didn't include the child in the picture. And then, so I was waiting for them, but after they took the photo, they took the child to the other building and they took pictures there, but they didn't include the child. So sometimes people don't want children, but it happens because they're not cultured. They don't understand. When I started coming to the temple, I liked the idea of separating the men and the women, because that's actually a profound revolutionary, you can say, idea or statement, because the ladies, they're harassed all day by men. But when they come here, they have a chance, they have space, They're not, you can say, hassled by the men here. So hopefully they don't. And, the ladies all day, they're being, whistled at all day. So when they come to the temple, it should be an oasis for them, a place to escape all of that materialistic mindset. And in the CC, Adi Lila, it says, Bharata Bhumiti Haila Manusya Janma Yara Janma Sartaka Karikara Para Upkara. So that means that anyone who has taken his birth in the land of Bhartavarsha, it is Punya Bhumi, because not only did Lord Ramachandra appear there, Krishna appeared there, Lord Buddha appeared there, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the land of India. So Srila Prabhupada, he says, anyone who has taken their birth in India, it is their duty to actually educate the people in Krishna consciousness and to understand Shastra, to help people understand the goal of life. It's not just to enjoy our senses, like what most people think, and to make his life successful, to go back home, back to Godhead with Krishna. And it's to help others advance in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness. A lot of people, they have different conceptions of the goal of life. Some people think it's to get rich, some people it's to get as many women as possible. And some of them, they think it's to merge with the light, the impersonal effulgence of Krishna. But we should cultivate Atma Tattvam. And one of the instructions that Krishna says is, Dehino Smin Yata Dehi. I am not this material body, but I'm an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And my duty is to render loving devotional service to Krishna. That will make us happy in this life as well as the next. And yesterday, I met this Mataji. She was traveling from Minnesota. And so she looked kind of puzzled, or she looked lost. So I called her to the book table And I started speaking to her about the mind, how the mind can cause so much stress, anxiety, things like that. And when I was speaking to her, she started crying. And she said, you know, well, when I came here, I had so many different thoughts in my head. And she said, I didn't know what the purpose of life was. So I started speaking to her more. And then the more she started crying. So I told her, I'm sorry, I don't have a tissue, you know. And she said, no, it's okay. So she took the books, and then she thanked me. And then before she left, she said, I can't wait to read these books. Thank you so much. So what we're doing when we're out book distributing is we're giving people hope. There is a better life than this life. This temporary material world is full of miseries. And yesterday also, when I was distributing books at the harbor, I caught this guy. I said, excuse me, you know, I have a book for you. And he said, I'm atheist. And he started laughing with his friends. So I said, oh, that means you don't have a brain, you know. And he looked back, and I smiled, and I waved at him. And so people that claim to be atheists, it's not very smart. And Vijay Prabhu, he always says there's so many things we don't know. And so to know that there is no God is childish, it's foolish. And then there are those people that think they are God. You know, it's another big misconception. And Vijay Prabhu, he says, if you're God, do something simple. Read what I'm thinking. And they can't even do that simple task. So there's only one God, one Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that's Krishna. We should understand that we're part of Krishna, but we can never be Krishna. So if one thinks he's God, he's actually dog. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. He's an illusion. So anyway, we should try to connect Lakshmīdevī back to Lord Ramachandra. That's our mission. Srila Prabhupada emphasized this. And we don't want everyone to turn into a kripina. And a kripina is someone that earns wealth, but they don't utilize their wealth properly. They don't use it in the service of Krishna. Okay, that's all I have. Any questions, comments, reflections, corrections?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I just want to let you know there is one question pending on the Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Tapas. We have an in-house.
Yeah. That was great. It's wonderful when you share Sankirtan stories. You're bringing your seva back to us. It's like transmissions from the field. It's nice. And I know the places you distribute. So it's nice. I can picture the whole thing. So what you inspired, I have a question from the text, but the purport. But why do you think she was crying? And why do you think that's something when people come, I mean, they're just going for a walk in the park. Mm-hmm. And then they see a spiritual person and they're tapping into something that's making them very emotional. Mm-hmm. She wasn't crying a minute ago. Then she talks to you and she begins crying. What do you think was happening there?
People want someone that can relate to them, someone that can, you can say, be real with them. You know, I was just repeating what I've read in the books. And so people, they're spirit souls. So they will naturally relate to it. You know, and I was telling her that the mind, it can become our friend or our worst enemy. And so she said, yeah, I'm struggling with the mind. So she was also suffering from depression. So, yeah.
I heard a female Mataji, this is a long time ago, and I'm not sure that they were like hard Krishna devotee, but she was talking about when someone meets their guru for the first time, they break out into one of two emotions generally. One is they either burst out into laughter or they burst out into tears. So that's interesting that when you come in touch with the profoundly spiritual, it can have that kind of like, you know, intense emotional reaction. These texts that we've been studying, I went back and looked like 5 or 6 texts ago. It's talking about these are the prayers of Lakshmīdevī. That's what they said. Lakshmīdevī does these following prayers. So I was wondering why she's been such an interesting character in these texts and purports. There's something interesting here. It says that Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, as well as other demigods and demons, undergo severe penances and austerities to receive my benedictions. And it says here that she clearly states that she does not bestow her favor on any materialistic person. So why Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are very intelligent. You know, they've created the universe and they're in charge of so many nice things. But they're undergoing severe penances and austerities to see benedictions. and then she says, but I do not favor anyone, however great may he be, unless he's at the service of your lotus feet. Are the severe penances and austerities that Lord Brahma and Shiva doing, are those material? And why are they doing them if they are? Because it sounds like she's saying they are in this purport or this text. Do you know much about that?
I have my speculation, but I'm not going to say on the Vyasa-san. Maybe Dravida Prabhu can enlighten us.
Well, I was thinking about that also.
Okay, Jai.
But it doesn't exactly say that Brahma and Shiva are praying for material benedictions. It doesn't say that. The wording may give that impression because he says but. I mean, I'm recalling it now because I can't read it. But I don't give my benedictions, and the implication is, well, they may do all the penances they want, but they're not going to my benediction. But that I think there's more to it than that. I'd have to look more at the commentary and see, because I mean, why are Brahma and Shiva performing all these benedictions, all these austerities? And it sounds like because Lakshmīdevī is an expansion of Radharani. We should remember that. All the Lakshmis are expansions of Radharani. And that would be something that Brahma and Shiva would perform austerities for, to get the benediction of Radharani or to get the benediction of Lakshmi so that they can get closer to Krishna or closer to Narayan. That makes sense. And devotees, they just don't perform austerities for material things. Then they're not devotees. Then they're Hiranyakashipu. He's the acharya for performing severe austerities for material things. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that I mean, there's kind of a mixture here. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, they can perform austerities in meditation for spiritual things, and the demons and other demigods, they undergo severe penance and austerities to receive my benedictions. So what she's saying is there, but I only give my benedictions to devotees. So Brahma and Shiva may get their benedictions, which is some special spiritual advantage or something, or getting close. Huh? Due to them being devotees. Yeah, like, Shiva's the ideal devotee, Brahma's the head of our sampradaya, I assume the devotees. But she says she's not giving her benedictions to the demons here. They get their benedictions from Durga, right? That's if they get one material, then they get them from Durgādevī. But they're always destructible. Lakshmīdevī is ultimately going to give. Prabhupada mentioned that somewhere, that people may pray to Lakshmi for material benedictions, but as she says right here, I don't favor anyone but the devotees. And the devotees are not going to pray for material benedictions. But Durga is an expansion of Lakshmi. She's the one who gives material benedictions. But that's not, they're all inauspicious. As Prabhupada quotes in the purport, that those fools who want material benedictions from the demigods may get them or think they get them, but they're temporary, and therefore they're not very smart. This is in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. They're not very intelligent. So a lot of the Bhagavatam's philosophy is what to pray for and who to pray for. Instructing us what we should aspire for.
I guess further on that point, Dravida, I'm still wondering though, because should it be how to understand this verse? Because it does seem that it literally says, at least the way the commas are placed, it does seem that it literally says that Brahma and Shiva, they do become absorbed in thoughts of material enjoyment and then do undergo severe penances and austerities to receive Lakshmi's benedictions. In the verse, I thought.
Can we think of any examples of Brahma?
Yeah, see, Shiva's more of a conundrum. I mean, Brahma, of course, he gets, you could maybe imagine that, like if he wants to have sex with his daughter or something, you could see him, having material desires. And then you could see.
Well, that could be the editor, the rascal editor.
You think it might be edited incorrectly, you're saying?
I'll check it when I get home. It does apply to that. It's real. replace the commas different ways.
Well, or if you do say but instead of as well as. Well, if you replace the last
If you replace the last comma with like, you know, as well as other demigods and devotees who undergo, but even then, yeah, if you make like the last part after the comma to just refer to the demigods and, you know, the demons, then I guess it could, yeah. But
No, I can the way it says now that what Brahman should be praying for, it does say it's becoming a soul and thoughts of it. And that's kind of,
when I was in law school or studying law, there was a whole Supreme Court case that came down to the placement of one comma. Yeah, that's a big deal.
how much did it cost?
It's huge. Yeah, it was all fight about what the comma placement was. I mean, well, I don't know that. That was just the highlighted. Every case has like something that's interesting about it. That was all fighting over the placement of a comma. No, or what the dispute was.
Yeah, the classic case in there's a joke. I remember Suradas years ago. There's a verse in the 7th chapter. You know this verse. What is it?
Kamos me.
Kamos me bharatarshaba. Adharma bhavat dharma varudha buddheshu kamos me bharatarshaba. I am sex life that's not contrary to religious principles. Or I'm sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. So I saw this. There was this lesson on Bhagavad Gita there's a book came out, and I was looking at it, and they had the comma there after sex life. I am sex life, comma, which is not contrary to religious, which means any old sex life is not contrary to religious principles. Because you put that comma in there, and it's no longer the words of Krishna. It's māyā-Devi got in there.
Comma, right?
Put the comma. If you leave the comma out, it becomes a
comma
restrictive clause.
Like comma.
I'm in the sex life, only that sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. But if you leave the comma in, it means I am all sex life, and all sex life is not contrary to religious principles. Just
Saying
by
like
that one
comma, like material desire.
Comma.
You know.
Pretty good. I like that.
Okay. Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Govardhan Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. May I?
Yes, please.
Yes, my question is, if nothing material is to be asked from the spiritual master, in what way should I serve him?
You should pray. Please engage me in your devotional service, like what we chant every morning. So, you know, people, they approach the spiritual master usually to advance in spiritual life, not in material life. And also we should pray that we'll develop prema, love for Krishna, to our spiritual master. That's the best I could do.
Yes, it is best and best. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Brilliant answer. Hare Krishna.
Dravida Prabhu has something to add.
We can learn from Kunti how to pray. Prabhupada loved those prayers. Favorite one. Tvai me ananya vishaya mati madhapate sakrit ratam udvahato dha gange bhaugamadhanvati. O Mother's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of Thee, not any other kind, as Ganges torrent flows into the sea, that all my love flow constantly to Thee. That's how to pray.
There you go.
Haribol.
Did you get that, Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
Of course. Thank you, Dravida Prabhu. Wonderful as usual.
Couldn't speak for a couple of seconds.
Okay. Thank you for your time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grand Taraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.